We are back. We are back at the movies. I'm Derek, this is Beth, and we are
Team Deth.
And we went to the movies. We went to The Watcher. Saw it last weekend at a local AMC. This is one that you've been looking forward to seeing.
It is. It's the, I believe, second writing and directorial project for Shauna Night Shyamalan, who is the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan. Obviously a staple in, I'll say spooky movies rather than scary movies, because I think there's kind of a subtle difference there.
Yeah, this is definitely a spooky movie by Shauna Shyamalan, and this is her first feature film, like you said. Mm-hmm. She'd done some television work. The film was produced by her father, M. Night, but this is the first time she's directed anything, and I think having a story like this, which is relatively small, it's pretty compact, the cast is pretty small, the number of locations you need, don't need a whole lot of them, I think really works for a first-time director. She was able to really explore the scenes and the story and really kind of make this movie what it was.
Other than maybe the early setup and then the very end, it really all takes place kind of on a stage, if you will. And as someone who's directed for the stage and then also worked assistant directing on like film projects, it can be very different when you have tons of different locations and tons of different scenes. That's a whole different thing to keep in your brain than here's my set and here's my small group of actors and now I play with them on this set, and maybe occasionally they come into the crowd or come on stage from a sideline or something, but for the most part this is my set and this is where I'm going to play with my actors. And this was a nice bridge kind of between the two worlds, where the majority of it did take place in that box that you see in the previews. It ventured slightly away and then it would come back, and it would venture away and it would come back, and I really enjoyed that dynamic. Yeah,
the setting was really interesting. I like the setup, what did they call it? The coop? The coop set, it's basically a room with some beds, a table, a couple of doors that let you go outside, and then one side of it is just one giant glass one-way mirror. And
of course the whole thing is set in the just gorgeous, beautiful Gaeltacht forest in Galway, Ireland, so you get this kind of spooky old world feel to it right off the top.
Which I think is intentional. I mean, the story does have some flavors of folk horror.
Irish roots, if you will.
I don't know if I'd say it was full-on folk horror by the strictest definition, if folk horror can have a strict definition. But I really like folk horror, the stuff that I've been exposed to. I haven't watched a lot of it or read any of it. But this has a very folk horror vibe throughout, and I really liked that. I really appreciated that. And I felt like the isolation and the weirdness happening in the world kind of creeping in, again, really worked for this setting and really let the director flex her muscles against, I don't want to say limitations, but within a framework that allowed the story to really kind of be spooky and kind of scary in spots. Not just because there's a pet bird that I was terrified something was going to happen to the entire time.
Really? You were worried about the bird?
I do. You know, a character has a pet, I get terrified for that pet.
He's worried about the bird, and then every time they're running from they're running from, and she's carrying this cage, I'm like, let the bird out and drop the cage! Wait, sorry, bird, I might let you out, but I'm not carrying a cage through the forest. That ain't happening. I don't care.
It was a domesticated bird. You think it's going to be okay running around in some spooky forest?
They aren't that far away. It's a bird. It can fly.
But can it get out?
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying I would open the cage and let it out.
Yeah, but then where's it going to go?
Up above the tree line. It's a bird.
Yeah, but they couldn't get out of the forest. It was a spooky magic forest.
Because they can't find their way out looking, like, through the trees. But it's an animal. And the animals were able to get away from the things. We see multiple times we get murmuration, is that what you would call it? several murders of crows flying overhead and flying away from the watchers.
Okay.
Will you give me that much?
Yeah, I'll give you that much.
And like little ground animals running away from it and
yeah.
stuff. So I would say that Darwin, brilliant name for this bird. I can't tell you why yet, but brilliant name for this bird. Why Darwin would have been perfectly fine. Now, as it turns out, Darwin's a bit of a lifesaver later on, so I'm glad we keep him around. But I'm just saying I wouldn't carry a cage.
I was terrified that something was going to happen to the bird. And then they make a big deal about how they have to go provide their own food. They have to go hunting.
Yeah.
And one of the characters, what was his name? Daniel, starts to crack a little bit because he's the main hunter. And then I start thinking, he's going to kill and cook Darwin. He's like, no, you can't do that to me. No. Oh. Protect the bird at all costs. I love animals,
I was
all
going
right?
to say, so you're okay with the other hunting, but...
Well, not really. I mean, I don't like to watch it, and I know people... You know what? That's not what this movie's about. The movie's not about whether or not Darwin the bird makes it out okay. It's about Dakota Fanning and whether or not she makes it out okay.
I really enjoyed Dakota's performance as the main viewpoint character. We're figuring it out as she figures it out. I do love that it's not restricted solely to her view, so it's not so first person that if she misses something, we miss it. Like, there are clues and little things as you go along as to what's going on here and who's who and what's what. It was really neat to kind of see the world through her eyes, and because she does play an American character, it was fun to experience some of the cultural things through her eyes as well.
Sure. I like Dakota Fanning as an actress as well, although I would like to see her in something in which her character experiences joy consistently, because I feel like the last few things I've seen her in like this, or we just watched the Alienist TV series. I had never seen it before, and she's the lead in that. We binged that, and she, because it's a period piece set in old New York, she's the first woman to work in the police department. She's so tamped down and constrained, trying to make her place in the world. I'd like to see a thing for her in which she has no shackles on her, and she can, like I said, experience joy and smile and not sound like she's holding something back the entire time. It worked in this case. I'm just ready for a change in my Dakota viewing.
All right.
So, but it worked in this case. She's an artist. She suffered a tragic loss that really did a number on her mentally when she was a child, and she's just trying to find her place in the world right now while hiding from anything that reminds her of what happened, because she blames herself for what happened. Well, what about the rest of the cast for you?
I really enjoyed Georgina Campbell's performance as Ciara?
I believe
Is
so,
that
yep.
how it was pronounced? A woman she's in the coop when she originally came. She came with her husband. He's now not there. We don't know where he is or what has happened to him exactly. We get hints.
Right.
I thought she played that really well, and as a woman who's got a newish husband, which was kind of the setup for them, and there is so much emotional turmoil and so much craziness that would go on in your head if you were left alone in a situation like that, and you're like, am I waiting for my spouse to come back? Did they make it but I need to go out? Are they hurt? Is something wrong? Do I need to go help them? And that brings up a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions. And then when you look at that versus the view of, this is a horror movie, these are the rules.
Yeah.
Stick within the rules and you'll stay alive. And in most horror movies, if you actually stay within the rules, you stay alive. People just always break a rule, whether they realize they're breaking it or not.
Right.
And then, So watching her do battle with herself over what does my heart tell me to do and what does my head tell me to do was really fascinating. And I don't know how much you noticed, but there were several moments where she wasn't the primary action. She wasn't involved in the primary action, but she was in the back of the scene somewhere, and she was still acting. She was still going through, whether you were supposed to be looking at her or not, she was still doing little things to keep that going and keep that thought process going, and you could see that in her face and her mannerisms, and I really appreciated that, because sometimes actors that don't have the lead role in something like this will just kind of show up for their part and then turn it off when they're in the background.
I see.
And I appreciated her full commitment to this.
I really liked John Lynch, which you mentioned before we started recording this or talking about this. I really liked him a lot. I don't know where I've seen him before, but I feel like I've seen him before. Have you seen him in anything before?
A number of British things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He was really good, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name.
Owen Freire, I think.
Works for me. She played Madeline, and she's really good as well. You mentioned the rules of horror movies. There are some actual rules set down in this film that if the characters follow, they're going to be just fine. Now, I don't want to spoil the movie, and we're not going to.
No.
I think you really enjoyed it a lot more than I did.
Yes.
That's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I did. There are some truly suspenseful moments here. There's some really cool stuff here. And I love the dancing around the folk horror thing, like I said. I think the performance was really solid. Any issues that I had with it were some story things that if you really stop and kind of look at them a little bit, they don't seem to all add up for me.
Okay.
I'm going to liken it to Gremlins. What are the rules of Gremlins?
You don't feed them after midnight, you don't get them wet.
And sunlight kills them.
And sunlight kills them, yeah.
Okay, don't feed them after midnight. But it's always technically after midnight somewhere. Okay. And what if you feed them at 8 p.m. or after 8 p.m. on the West Coast, but they're actually from New York? Does that make it after midnight? That's what I mean, is there are a few rules or things that happen in the Watchers that if you stop and try to apply some real world stuff to it, they kind of break down a little bit for me. Like that.
Okay.
But I didn't dislike the movie because of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That makes sense.
But I really liked it, like I said. And I think for a first-time director who has been flat out upfront and honest in all the press conferences, yeah, I'm directing because my dad's the producer. They've owned that. I think she is developing her own style. I think this is somebody that I'm going to want to keep watching her movies. I want to see more from her.
And I can always really appreciate when a movie is able to make me feel real fear for at least the characters, if not myself, a little bit, without a lot of gore.
Yeah, it's true. This movie, I believe, was PG-13, wasn't it?
Yeah. It didn't need the gore. It didn't really need foul language.
Yeah, it didn't have any of that at all.
And yet I was terrified for some of those characters.
Yeah, it was the suspense and the way it was shot, and the performances.
Well, and just that running theme of what's worse than death.
Yeah. Really well done. Really well done. The production design, the set design, the music I really enjoyed as well. I cannot pronounce this man's name, but I've heard his music and other things. Abel Korzeniowski?
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. He was really good. I really enjoyed the movie overall. I have issues, but I enjoyed it overall, and you really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it, and it just made me want to go to Ireland even more now.
Why? You saw what happened to the American in Ireland.
Yeah, but I'm a redhead.
Yeah, would I be your Darwin?
Aww. You can lead me anywhere, baby.
Wow. Well, I will lead you to the like and subscribe button down below because Team Deth is back, baby.
That's right.
We're going to be getting the YouTube channel up and running and doing more Day in the Life of Death, more movie reviews. We've got other things in the works as well, so stay tuned for all of that. Plus, at some point, we will be talking about our adventures in Kuwait in more depth, so that'll be coming up as well. So if you want to keep up with Team Deth, you got to like and subscribe. And check us out over at teamdeth.com to learn everything else we got going on, including you can pick up a Dawn of the Dead Hawaiian-style button-up shirt. Man, this thing is cozy. I'm loving this.
Soft, too.
Oh, man. And, it attracts all the babes, man. Look at this. teamdeth.com. Check it out.